Welcome to a new podcast where you, our listener, can learn English just by hearing native speakers talk.
And at the same time, we explore some really powerful ideas from great books that can maybe give you a fresh way of looking at things.
Today, you've asked us to take a deep dive into The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's a book that a lot of people have found helpful for understanding how to find maybe a bit more peace in their daily lives.
Yes, it's definitely a guide to spiritual enlightenment, as he calls it. It offers you a really different perspective on how you experience your own thoughts and feelings.
And we want to unpack the core ideas today, explain them in simple English for, B1, B2 level learners.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating about it, I think, is where it came from. It all started with a very personal and actually quite dramatic experience for Tolle himself.
That's right. The book didn't just appear out of thin air. Tolle talks about this time when he had a thought that just kept repeating.
Yeah, the thought was, I cannot live with myself any longer.
Which sounds incredibly difficult, intense.
Very intense. And this feeling, it actually led him to a really profound realization, a kind of question.
What was the question?
He suddenly thought, wait a minute. If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me. The I and the self that I cannot live with.
Ah, right. Who is the I and who is the self?
Exactly. And that question, that sudden awareness, it just stopped his mind completely. He describes this feeling of being conscious, totally aware, but with no thoughts.
Wow. Just silence inside.
Complete mental silence. Imagine that.
That sounds like a moment of real clarity.
Yeah.
Like hitting a reset button.
Definitely. And then following this, he felt like he was being drawn into, well, he called it a void or an energy vortex.
Scary.
He said it was scary at first as his body started shaking, but then he heard a kind of inner voice say, resist nothing.
Resist nothing.
And he felt himself falling into this void, but realized that it was sort of inside him, and then the fear just went. He let go.
And after that, what changed?
Well, he woke up the next morning, heard a bird singing outside his window, but it was like he was hearing it, really hearing it for the very first time. Everything seemed fresh, new, intensely alive.
So this experience completely shifted his perception.
Totally. He said even the sunlight filtering through the curtains felt like love itself. He looked around his room, a place he knew, but it was like seeing it brand new.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And this led to the book.
Well, it led to a period, about 2 years, where he spent most of his time just sitting on park benches.
Doing what?
Just being. Experiencing this intense joy and peace, even though externally he had nothing. No job, no real home, few relationships.
So what he realized was that his identification, his connection to all that external stuff had fallen away.
Exactly. What was left was just his essential being, that sense of I am, pure awareness.
Yeah, that's quite a journey from I cannot live with myself to just pure joy.
It really is. And the core message of the book, The Power of Now, it really comes from what he noticed later. When people asked him, what happened? What's your secret? He'd say, you have it already. You just can't feel it because your mind is making too much noise.
The noisy mind. That's the obstacle.
That's the core idea. The peace is already there, but it's buried under constant thinking.
Okay, so this leads us to one of the first big points in the book. You are not your mind. That's fundamental, isn't it?
Absolutely fundamental. Tolle explains that your mind is really just a tool.
A tool. Like a hammer.
Kind of, yeah. It's meant to be used for specific tasks, solving a problem, planning something, learning, and then ideally you put it down.
But we don't, do we? Our minds seem to be running 24/7.
Exactly. That's the problem of excessive thinking he talks about. He estimates that maybe 80 or even 90% of most people's thinking is, repetitive, useless.
And even harmful.
Often dysfunctional and harmful, yes. It causes this constant leakage of vital energy, like leaving an engine running when you're parked.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So the first step is maybe just noticing how much of our thinking is just background noise.
Noticing is key. And then he asks this crucial question. Can you be free of your mind whenever you want to? Do you have an off button?
I think most people would say no, they don't feel like they have an off button. The thoughts just keep coming.
Right, and that's where the mind controls you rather than you using the mind.
So what's the goal then? Is enlightenment just having no thoughts at all? Like being switched off completely?
No, not at all. That's a common misunderstanding. Tolle says enlightenment is about rising above thought, not falling below it into unconsciousness.
Okay, so you still use your mind?
Oh, absolutely. You still use your thinking mind when needed for practical tasks, for work, communication,
Yeah.
but it becomes more focused, more effective.
And you're free from the The constant chatter.
Exactly. You're free from that involuntary internal dialogue. There's an inner stillness underneath.
That sounds incredibly peaceful.
It is. And he even says that true creativity often comes from this oscillation, this movement between thought and no mind, that space of consciousness without thought.
So thinking isn't bad. It's the compulsive, uncontrolled thinking that's the issue.
Precisely. When thinking isn't rooted in that deeper awareness, it can become barren, repetitive, even destructive.
Okay, so this uncontrolled mind, it creates problems. And a huge one Tolle addresses is pain. How is consciousness the way out of pain?
Well, he says that the pain we create for ourselves in the present always comes down to one thing: non-acceptance.
Non-acceptance of what is happening right now.
Yes. It's a kind of unconscious resistance to the present moment. On a thought level, it shows up as judgment. This shouldn't be happening. This is wrong.
Emotionally.
Emotionally, it manifests as negativity. Sadness, anger, irritation, frustration.
And the intensity of the pain depends on how much we resist.
Exactly. The degree of resistance to what is and how much you identify with your mind's interpretation of it that determines how much you suffer.
So acceptance of the now is key to reducing present suffering.
It is. But then there's also past pain, isn't there?
Right. Old hurts, things that happened years ago that still affect us. He calls this the pain body, doesn't he?
Yes, the pain body. It's a really crucial concept. Think of it like an accumulation, a buildup of all the past emotional pain you haven't fully faced and let go of.
So it's like this old energy field within us?
Kind of, yeah. An energy field made of old sadness, anger, grief, fear. And the thing is, it wants to survive.
How does it survive?
It wants more pain. It tries to get you to unconsciously identify with it. It makes you think and feel in ways that resonate with its old pain.
So it feeds on experiences that create more negativity, like drama, anger.
Anger, hatred, grief, emotional drama, even illness sometimes. When the pain body is active, you might unconsciously seek out or create situations that trigger more of that same painful feeling, just so it can feed.
That sounds a bit scary, like being possessed by old feelings.
It can feel like that. Tolle says pain can only feed on pain. It cannot feed on joy. It finds joy quite indigestible.
So how do you deal with it? Can you fight it? Push it away?
Trying to fight it usually doesn't work. It often just creates more conflict, more pain, like fighting darkness.
So what's the alternative?
Consciousness, awareness, simply watching it. Observing the feeling within you, observing the thoughts it creates without judging them and without getting carried away by them.
So you notice it, like, there's that old anger feeling again, but you don't become the anger.
Exactly. You recognize it as the pain body, not as who you truly are. Your awareness, your conscious attention is like light. It begins to transmute the pain. You watch it, you feel it fully, but you don't feed it with more thought.
Watching it without resistance is the key. Yeah. Accepting that it's there in this moment.
Precisely. That acceptance is part of the awareness.
Now, Tolle also connects this strongly to the ego.
Yeah.
How does the ego fit in?
Well, the ego for Tolle is this false mind-made self. It's created through identification with your thoughts, your possessions, your roles, your stories about yourself.
And because it's false,
Yeah.
it's insecure.
Deeply insecure and vulnerable, yes. Even if it pretends otherwise, it constantly feels under threat because it knows unconsciously that it's not real.
And this constant sense of threat leads to
Fear. Fear is the underlying emotion of the ego. Remember, emotions are the body's reaction to the mind. The ego is constantly sending threat signals. I'm not enough, something bad will happen.
So anyone identified with their mind, with their ego, is basically living in fear.
Tolle suggests yes, in a state of fear or anxiety, even if it's just a low-level unease most of the time. It's the constant companion of the ego.
And how does the ego try to cope with this? How does it try to find wholeness?
It tries to find wholeness by identifying with external things. It attaches itself to, well, anything. Possessions, social status, job titles, knowledge, physical appearance, relationships, political beliefs, national identity, the list goes on.
It uses these things to build a sense of self.
Exactly. But Tolle's point is crucial. None of these things is you. Your true self is the consciousness, the awareness that exists before and behind all those labels.
That gives you a lot to think about. So if you're not your mind, and these ego attachments aren't you, how do you find the real you? Tolle says don't look for it in the mind, right?
Right. He's very clear. Problems of the mind cannot be solved on the level of the mind. Trying to think your way out of overthinking doesn't usually work.
So understanding that dysfunction, understanding that identification with the mind creates the ego, That's the main thing to grasp.
That's the core understanding. He says once you grasp that basic dysfunction, there isn't that much more you need to learn or understand intellectually. Analyzing your mind endlessly might make you a good psychologist, but it won't necessarily take you beyond the mind.
Because the analysis itself is still mind activity.
Exactly. The ego loves getting involved in problems and analysis and makes it feel important. For some people, their problems become part of their identity.
So they might unconsciously resist letting go of the problems.
There can be a hidden investment in unhappiness, yes. If your whole sense of self is built around being a victim or having problems, then solving them feels like losing yourself.
Okay, so if we don't look in the mind, where do we look? This brings us back to the now, doesn't it?
It always comes back to the now. Tully urges us to end the delusion of time.
The delusion of time. That sounds pretty radical.
It does, but it's central. He argues that the past and the future don't truly exist except as thoughts in our minds right now. The past is memory. The future is anticipation, both happening in the present moment as mental activity.
So true problems aren't real either, in a way, because they're just thoughts about past or future.
He suggests that what we call problems are usually mind-created interpretations or projections. The only thing that is ever truly real is this present moment, the now.
And accessing the now is the key to everything.
It's the key to the spiritual dimension, as he calls it. Accessing the power of the now happens through presence, being fully here.
So we need to let go of what he calls psychological time.
Yes. This habit of mentally dwelling in the past or projecting into the future, that's where negativity comes from. Too much past leads to regret, guilt, resentment. Too much future leads to anxiety, tension, worry.
It's like our minds are constantly pulling us away from the only place life is actually happening.
That's a good way to put it. He encourages you to find the life underneath your life situation.
Life versus life situation. What's the difference?
Your life situation is the stuff that exists in time. Your job, your history, your finances, your relationships, it's mind stuff. Your life, however, is now. It's always now. It's real.
And the now is the only access point.
It's the narrow door. He suggests asking yourself frequently, do I have a problem right now? Not next week, not yesterday, but in this exact second.
And usually in the immediate second.
Often in the immediate second, there is no problem. There is just this moment. Even if the situation is difficult, the immediate now can often be handled. It's the mind's projection that creates the suffering.
That's a really practical exercise. Just check in with the immediate now.
Very practical.
How do you know if you are actually present? Or if you're just thinking about being present?
Good question. Tully gives a simple test. Ask yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I am doing?
Joy, ease, and lightness.
If there is, it's a good sign you're present. If what you're doing feels like a burden, a struggle, or just stressful, it's likely you're caught in psychological time, resisting the mala, now wanting to be somewhere else.
So it's the quality of your awareness while doing something that matters.
Exactly. When you stop trying to escape the present, he says the joy of being flows into everything you do. Your attention is fully in the now.
And you feel a sense of peace.
A sense of presence, stillness, peace. You're no longer depending on future outcomes for your happiness. Success or failure in the external world doesn't drastically change your inner state. You've found the life underneath the situation.
He also mentions different levels of unconsciousness. Ordinary and deep.
Yes. Ordinary unconsciousness is the normal state for most people identified with thoughts and emotions, run by the ego, unaware of being. It's not acute pain, usually, but a constant low level of unease, boredom, nervousness, like background static.
That sounds familiar. That low hum of something not quite right.
Doesn't it? We often don't notice it because it's always there. Until it stops for a moment.
And deep unconsciousness.
That's an intensification. It happens when the ego feels threatened, when the pain body gets triggered, when things go wrong. Intense anger, fear, depression, you become completely identified with the reaction.
And this is where really negative actions can come from.
Tully suggests things like physical violence are impossible without deep unconsciousness. You're completely taken over.
Wow. He also says this resistance to the now isn't just personal, it's collective.
Yes, a collective dysfunction. He argues that our civilization's constant striving, dissatisfaction, and focus on the future, never being content with the now, has created enormous suffering and violence, and it even threatens the planet.
So becoming present is kind of important for everyone.
It has much larger implications than just personal peace, yes.
So how can we practice this more? How can we monitor ourselves?
He suggests regular self-observation. Frequently ask yourself, Am I at ease at this moment? Or what's going on inside me right now?
Paying attention inward.
Yes. Direct your attention to your thoughts, your feelings, any tension in your body. Are you subtly resisting the present? Wishing it were different? Worrying? Complaining?
Becoming your own inner watchman, sort of.
That's a good way to think about it, just noticing without judgment.
He also talks about inner and outer purpose. What's that distinction?
Your outer purpose is about goals and achievements in the world, in time, in the future. Your inner purpose is about deepening your being, becoming more conscious in the now.
And the inner purpose is primary.
He suggests it is. Your outer journey might have many steps, but the inner journey, awakening, only has one step, the one you are taking right now.
So this present step contains everything.
When you become aware of this step, this moment, you realize it's all there is, and it connects you to being. It becomes fulfilling in itself.
That's a beautiful idea, making each moment the destination.
Exactly.
Okay, towards the end, he talks more about transformation, using the body, and surrender. How does the body fit in? Isn't the focus usually on the mind?
While the mind is the source of the dysfunction, the body can be a portal back to being, back to the now. It's not something to be denied or fought against.
So how do you use the body?
By feeling it from within. He talks about the inner body, the sense of aliveness, the energy field within you.
Like feeling your hands tingle or the breath in your belly?
Yes, that kind of direct, non-conceptual feeling. Focusing attention on the inner body anchors you firmly in the now. It takes you out of your head.
And connects you to something deeper.
It connects you to what he calls the unmanifested, the formless source, pure being, stillness, peace. It's accessible through presence, inner body awareness, and the gaps between thoughts.
He also mentions space and silence as portals.
Yes. Becoming aware of the empty space around objects or the silence underneath sounds can also draw your attention away from form and towards that formless awareness, pure consciousness.
Interesting. And how does surrender connect to all this? We mentioned acceptance earlier.
Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to, rather than opposing, the flow of life. It means accepting the present moment unconditionally and without reservation.
But that doesn't mean giving up or doing nothing, right?
Not at all. Surrender is perfectly compatible with taking action, initiating change. But the action arises from a place of acceptance, not resistance or negativity. It's infused with the energy of being.
So surrender actually empowers positive change by changing your inner state first.
Exactly. When you stop wasting energy fighting what is, that energy is freed up. Surrender reconnects you with the source energy of being. It moves you from mind energy to spiritual energy.
How does this apply to difficult situations, like pain or relationships?
With pain, surrender means allowing the feeling to be there fully, without the mind creating a story around it. This is terrible. Why me? Facing and feeling it directly with awareness allows it to transform. Light enters the darkness.
And in relationships.
Surrender means accepting people as they are in this moment without needing them to change for you to be okay. This allows for genuine connection and can transform difficult dynamics. Relationships become a spiritual practice.
He even talks about illness potentially being enlightening.
Yes, illness can sometimes force you into surrender, into the now. It can shatter ego identification and make you deeply present, leading to unexpected spiritual openings.
And what about major disasters or tragedies?
Those are extreme situations, obviously, but Tully suggests they can be opportunities for complete surrender, for letting go of all resistance. In that surrender, unbelievable peace can sometimes arise, even amidst external chaos, transmuting suffering into peace.
And ultimately, even then, you have a choice.
He emphasizes that you always have the power to choose your state of consciousness, your response to any situation in the now. That inner freedom can never be taken away.
It really all comes back to that central point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The power is always in the present moment.
Always in the now.
Well, we hope this deep dive into the power of now has given you, our listeners, a clearer understanding of its key concepts, and maybe some practical ways you can bring more presence into your own life.
The core message is simple but profound. The power is in the now. Becoming more aware of your thoughts, connecting with your inner being, your inner body.
That's how you can free yourself from a lot of unnecessary suffering and experience more joy, more ease, more peace right now.
And this is really just scratching the surface. The power of now has many more layers. If these ideas resonated with you, we definitely encourage you to pick up the book and explore it further.
Absolutely. There's a lot more depth there.
Indeed, there is.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope you found it helpful for your English learning and maybe, just maybe, a little inspiring for your personal growth too.
We hope so.
If you enjoyed our discussion, please do like this, leave a comment, maybe share it with a friend who might find it interesting. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives into other powerful ideas.
Your support really helps us keep doing this.
Thank you again for listening, and we wish you good health.